Okay. So what's the scoop, boys?
So we're doing a interview for our final project in organizational management.
Oh, cool. Organizational management. Okay.
So we have a few questions to ask you. You're okay with that?
Sure, man. Sure.
Okay, so what is your educational background, your job title, and the role in your business?
So I got my undergraduate in industrial engineering from Stanford. I got my master's in civil engineering from Stanford. And I studied entrepreneurship at Harvard Business School and Babson College also.
Did you go back to do Harvard Business?
Yeah, I did. I actually did it when I was playing football for a while, kind of after college, and so they had a couple programs that could kind of get us in there, and so those were really, really good experiences. I've been to Babson twice actually, and Harvard the one time.
I almost played baseball at Babson. How is their entrepreneurial programs there?
Oh, it's fantastic, man. It's fantastic. It's very international over there, so there's a lot of really cool perspectives that you get from all these other countries. I mean, from South Africa to the Asian countries to, it was a really cool experience seeing all these. One of my better friends from there was like a Bush helicopter pilot in South Africa that was like dealing with like the rhino crisis and stuff like that. So it was really cool to kind of see a little different perspective on life than us here worrying about, where our next gallon of milk is going to come from or whatever. So.
Yep. Okay. How would you define leadership, and could you share with us your own style of leadership?
Well, it's actually kind of changed. So, I've been in a variety of different companies. I was in private equity for a while where we kind of managed from afar, to just my latest business at, I didn't even tell you the role of my business. So I'm the president and the CEO of the company. I started it 5 years ago. And so that I started and it was just myself, right? So the leadership there, you're kind of like, in terms of people, you're kind of leading yourself on a lot of those tasks. And as we've kind of grown, I now have, it's still relatively small. I still have 8 employees that directly report to me. But the delegation of that process has kind of been probably the biggest challenge and the biggest change. And so I think when you're defining leadership, it's kind of, you got to be flexible to the situation, while still kind of maintaining your core values and still, inspiring the people and giving confidence to the people around you. The head of the snake, so to speak, needs to kind of know where the hell the rest of the body is supposed to go. And as the company gets bigger, you start delegating more and more things. Sometimes it's a little harder to kind of keep track of all those pieces. And so, to me, it's kind of inspiring the people, giving them general direction, and having them each understand their role and how we're going to get to the finish line. So if they don't understand that, it's just a bunch of fluff and nobody's going to listen to you. Anyway, how can you specifically affect the outcome of this business? I think transferring that message is very, very important.
Okay, so how do you get your employees to reach that target line or whatever you're setting in place for them?
Yeah, so you really can't, there's the old, you can't manage what you can't measure. And so it's really important that, they constantly know where they stand. And this is easier said than done. Certainly with like a sales role, it's easy to give them like sales metrics and different things where, that are directly tied to their compensation. I do that with a good portion of the staff. Whatever their business wants to achieve, however the business makes money, you also make money if you make those things happen. And then keeping them updated on their progress related to that. So a lot of times, and I've fallen victim of this too. A lot of times, you set up these incentive programs to help hold people accountable and to have them reach their goals, and you don't update them. And just like with any contest or any fundraising or anything, if you don't know where you stand, you're just kind of working without, I don't know, not without a purpose, but you're just kind of blown in the wind a little bit. And so, if I were to tell you guys like, hey, we're only $5 short of this goal, you're going to be a little more motivated to reach the goal rather than I just tell you that you were $5 short 2 weeks after it's over with, right?
Mhm. So have you implemented any new goals for your team members since the COVID-19 pandemic?
Yeah, actually, we have. Boy, that's loud. Yeah, actually, we have. So we've kind of changed our revenue model. Our revenue model is similar to that of a Costco, where we have a membership fee. You join, and then we make commissions on the items and purchases that you buy. In some senses. So we have kind of lowered our barrier to entry. It's not really appropriate to charge dentists for things right now when they're not generating revenue. And so we're kind of letting them in the door we're letting them in the door at a very low entry point. And therefore our numbers have kind of skyrocketed accordingly. I mean, like a relatively simple economic model of lower the price, the more people will buy. And so we've had to kind of raise those goals and raise those sales, certainly on the sales side, raise those metrics. And we've also kind of implemented a lot of virtual stuff.
Mhm.
We're measuring different things now also. We're measuring phone calls a hell of a lot more than we used to. We're measuring, online video meetings a lot more than we used to. Just because those are our connectivity points now. We're not seeing people in person.
For that membership you mentioned, is that a one-time thing or is that like a yearly payment to like stay in the loop and everything?
Yeah, it's a one time a year. It's just like a Costco. So like if you buy a membership, you get access to our benefits for 365 days, and then you get charged again for that, whether you use it or not. So we always tell them if you're not going to go to Costco, don't buy a Costco card. If you're not going to use our service, don't sign up for it.
Are you able to take on more employee or more customers right now, or kind of
Well,
falling off because of everything?
we've had we've responded pretty well. I don't know if your mom has been keeping you up to date on what's happening with Clean Waters, but kind of responded in a similar way. We had our best quarter to date, and we're blowing up our membership numbers right now. It's a variety of things. We're kind of like a savings club. We help people save money, and so every dollar kind of matters now. So we're taking on a lot more memberships than we have in a similar amount of time than any years.
Yeah.
I say yes, we can take on more. The sales team is getting a little strung out right now because of it. So yeah, we're doing fine, and I'm really proud of how they've responded so far.
When everything happened, we were thinking that we weren't going to get any more clients, and it was no one's going to pay, et cetera. But
Yeah,
it turned out to be beneficial.
well, it's a really good example of how you responded. And so, like, if Kane Waters or myself or whomever, if we had made no business adjustments, if we had not communicated the message to the staff of how this is an urgent situation and things need to change, and if you don't react, and if Kane Waters or myself would have just hid under the covers for 3 months, we'd both be dying. But you chose to not do that. There's an opportunity with all these like crazy things that are happening. There's infinite amounts of opportunity if you just take a different perspective. If you take the perspective of, this is all the stuff that's happening. There's got to be something out there. There's got to be a way to make money off of all this, not in a predatory way, but there's got to be an opportunity for this, as opposed to just being scared and kind of paralyzing yourself. So yeah, it's because there are some other people out there who have not responded at all, and they've not been communicating with their staff, and they've not been communicating with their customers, and provide no value.
So, communication's key.
I'm telling you, man, like how that message is communicated to the staff is super, super important. Like, hey, being very honest about the situation and the concerns and all. And I think people are willing to understand that. And granted, if you're running a manufacturing plant and there's 500 people and 200 of the kids are part-time high school kids, you got to treat that a little bit differently. But I trust my staff enough. I can tell them very clearly, this is the situation, this is how we're going to respond to it, and the urgency that they've responded with has been very encouraging.
Good. Speaking of that, with your employees, have you had to adjust or furlough any of their salaries, or potentially increase them because of what's happening?
Yeah, so just for, yeah, we did. So I had everybody on salary and then, well, yeah, to answer your question, we reduced hours for everybody on the staff, kind of in
Okay.
preparation. And they all responded very, very well. And I'm proud to say that as of last week, everybody is back to full-time, full pay. But those were not, I mean, those aren't exactly the conversations you dream about, you know, I mean, those aren't fun conversations.
Yeah. Okay. Have you seen any benefits from communicating online?
You talking about with the staff?
Staff or customers?
Yeah, just kind of in general, like in sales or just like internally with all of your employees, just in general.
Yeah, so there are some, I'll tell you what happened. We used to have a weekly call with all the staff because the thing that with my business, we had a couple people working remote anyway. We have people in 4 different states. And we changed that cadence to a call every single day. And so we really increased communication. So I'm actually talking to the staff more than I ever have, and I feel very connected to each of them. We do 1 video call a week and 4 just like regular calls a week. It just takes a little more time and effort for girls to kind of get ready. Most of my staff are girls, so I don't want to make them do all that for no reason. You know, and so you know, that's actually been really good. We're getting more involved with each other. I actually let a different person lead the meeting every day. And you know, they've kind of added a little more fun to the meeting than I normally would add to it as I'm reviewing numbers and stuff. And so they would do, you know, stuff that they do, and it's actually worked out really well. So I'll host a video call on Mondays, and then every other day of the week, a different person. I run that. That's actually been really good. We're communicating more than ever, and I know Dylan, the Kane Water partners, are having a call every single morning. They probably talk to each other more in the last 2 months than they have in the last 10 years. You know, and so it just,
Yeah. I see them on the phone at like 7 o'clock when I'm coming down. They're already going at it.
yeah. So that's been good. And with the customers, you know, most of our conversations with them were already kind of over the phone. We used to see, we're used to seeing about 50 offices a week in person, and obviously we don't see any of them anymore. We've added some really complex procedures in our CRM system. Like we use HubSpot. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about. So there's all these like automated workflows that we put people in, and those we really kind of picked up the pace on those, and it's really kind of streamlined our stuff. The dentists are now I deal with dentists, and dentists have more time now than they normally do because they're just sitting around waiting for the dang doors to open. So it's actually a pretty good time for everybody.
So I imagine once everything opens back up, you're going to be seeing more than 50 offices a week.
Well, you know, I don't know, because when you think about how I see them, I office out of your Kane Waters and myself, we share the same offices. And so I see the customers that come in to see them. And so it remains to be seen if people are going to be comfortable traveling to Dallas to do those in person.
I think your mic is cutting out or making weird noises.
Mine is?
No, you're good now. Sorry.
So we'll see. It depends on if people are comfortable traveling again and when that happens. And if not, we'll be fine either way. The in-person interactions with customers are always a little better.
Mhm.
But it is what we got to do. What we got to do here.
For Texas, do you know like any timeline of when you guys can, or when that will open up for dentists and everything?
Well, Texas is opening up Monday for a lot of stuff, and there's still like all these kind of ambiguous like safety recommendations and guidelines that aren't really official, but they kind of are. And, you know, our customers, our patients going to be more nervous about going to the dentist. You know, I don't know, likely they are. Is the cost of doing business going to go up? If I have to buy 65 masks every day, that's got to come from somewhere. You know, maybe that patients pay for it, doctors pay for it. I don't know. So we're opening up pretty quickly. I don't think it's just a free for all, and nothing's really changed in terms of the virus as far as I know. I don't know why Sunday is not safe, but Monday is. I don't know, but or maybe Sunday is safe already and Monday is also. I don't know, but so.
Do you think procrastination amongst your team has occurred since they're not being taken accountable in person?
So the thing about working from home is that there are so many different variables that apply. And if you have 10 people, each with perfect working conditions at home, all 10 of them are going to respond in a different way. And so, you know, I've never been you know, your mom and I probably log the most hours at the office of anybody in the firm. We're kind of office people. We got to be here. And if you're not here, I don't know what you're doing. Like if I had to implement a working from home situation with a larger group of people and introduce all those different variables of cats, dogs, kids, bad internet connections, phones, all that stuff, it would be a challenge because you can't just treat everybody the same. Some people will be laying on their couch, they'll be looking over there every 5 minutes. Guys, I'm just going to lay down for a minute. Kind of like when you're in college and you got a paper to write. The only thing you want to do is not do that. Right? So I don't know. Procrastination, maybe not. I don't know, but you know, I do need to make sure that I measure what they're doing, not because they wouldn't be doing it, but just because there are more distractions. If you have 4 kids at home and there's nobody else there but you and them, like I don't know how it would.
Yeah, I agree.
3 boys like your mom has and dealing with you maniacs. I don't know.
Yeah. She took the office. I'm sitting outside.
Are you sitting out? I was wondering where you were. I thought you were at a bar or something. Okay. So probably, I mean, there's probably the temptation to kind of do other things, but you know, I have a couple of employees that had to drive over an hour to the office. So even if they procrastinate for 45 minutes, I'm in the positive.
Yeah, so like early meetings, you can just get on the phone instead of an hour commute, stuff like that. Benefit.
Yeah, the one thing with phone meetings, sometimes without the video, is that people don't pay attention. You know, and so if I'm talking to a customer, or you know, if you're on like some sort of conference call, I mean, probably right now somebody on this call is doing something else other than paying attention to the call, right? And we're on video, but like I do notice when I have 8 people on a phone call, you can just kind of hear typing in the background. You can kind of hear some certain things going on, and that might be fine. And people are inherently attracted to like multitasking and doing other things. That's a big change in the social interaction of these conversations and stuff like that. And I think the video element is really important. I know I get all these solicitations from all these vendors, and the ones who show up on video, even if I'm not on video, I just feel inherently more inclined to look at them and pay attention to them. I even have a couple of vendors that when I ask them questions, they respond in a video. You know, I click the link and I listen to them explain the answer. It's actually a really good tool. You know, it's either that or like a 5-page email with a bunch of crap in it. So.
Yeah. Okay, one of our last questions is, what qualities do you think are needed to be a good leader in times like these? And I think you've touched up a lot about that already.
Yeah, you just got to communicate. This whole thing is about communication and giving confidence, and not, you know, having confidence in the plan, having confidence in the vision, and inspiring confidence in them that we're doing the right things and that we're going to get through this. Because a lot of times, you know, I'll just give you an old football analogy. You know, if you don't really know what to do, like if I don't know if I'm supposed to block this guy, or I can't remember if I'm supposed to block this guy or block this guy, well, I might as well just pick one and go really hard, because if I kind of try to half-ass both of them, I'm screwed either way. So like just having a definitive like path, whether it's the perfect path or not, you're clear about it and you communicate it and you inspire that that's what they should do, most of these decisions that we make aren't totally critical. If the whole team marches in the same direction, we're probably going to have.
Okay, I like that. And with our final question, I think you know it's coming. We asked you about our case analysis question. We had a question. It was basically for our midterm grade, how we would respond in the situation with the shooter. And we want to know, as being a CEO manager, we want to know your response to that.
Can you remind me of the situation again?
I can read the whole thing if that's good. So in Dallas, there was a shooting at an accounting firm. One of your employees, Kate, is very dramatic. The other has similar qualities to what one would stereotype to being a shooter named Max. Kate is gossiping around the office that Max could do the same based on recent behavior despite no criminal background and works very hard at his job. Max does not get along well with the others, but has been a very hard worker and has produced positive results for the company for numerous years. The group manager, Lisa, began participating in the gossip earlier in the week with Kate and her friends. Now the other members of the team are no longer wanting to come to the office because the fear that Max may become the next shooter.
Okay. So I guess one question how do I know this?
I don't know.
So I guess it's kind of like a situation where you're like upper level management, and then there's another manager, and then there's Max and Kate at the bottom of the thing. And so Max does all his work well, but doesn't get along with others, kind of gives off like a weird personality,
Sure.
office gossip. And so it eventually makes its way up to their manager, and then their manager is kind of put in the situation. And so as an upper level manager, what would you do to kind of even things out with those bottom three?
Okay, so there's a couple dynamics going on here that I'm just going to make a couple assumptions here. So the first assumption is going to be that whatever the group manager's name was, like whatever you said it was, that she told me. That's how I found out, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And chances are that the group manager was told these things in confidence, right? So like, don't tell anybody, but this is my situation. And then the group manager comes to me and says, don't tell them that I told you, but I'm scared that Max is going to blow up the building or whatever it is. So the first conversation, and then now people are stopping, like they're not coming to work, correct?
Yeah. There's a fear that whatever is going to happen, so they're not going to work.
Sure. Well, where I would start with this is a series of kind of individual conversations. So like I need to figure out exactly what the hell is going on with the group manager. I know that she's participating. I know that she's participating. Whatever it is. Yeah, what an odd situation. And I don't know. I think I would want to talk to the people about it, because this is just like a typical, like, I don't know, like hysteria type of kind of like nonsense reaction. And then what I will do is just like sweep it under the rug and just hope that it all works out. People have stopped working. So like until that happens, there's kind of a tendency to just kind of let it go because it's stupid and like things typically go. As soon as people stop coming to the office or are claiming some sort of health HR safety risk, that's when everything kind of comes to a head. I will have individual conversations with every single person involved, and then I will get every single person together in the same room once I've understood kind of the points of view, just bring some sort of logic and reason to the situation. People may or may not be emotional if they don't want to come to the office just because Max is there, and because of some rumor that they heard that makes no sense. That's kind of their decision. And if you need to be at the office to work and you're not willing to work, and I have no reason, Max has really done nothing, right? Max has not done anything, right?
Yeah.
You didn't like make a weird Facebook post about it.
There's
No,
a
he just
little bit
kind
of,
of Yeah. He's just kind of the odd guy out in the office and matches up with some of the tendencies of some other guy that just happened to shoot up another accounting office across town.
Yeah, yeah. So that's completely because right now, dude, I have a variety of legal risks, right? If the people don't feel comfortable coming to the office and I make them come, that's a problem on my side. And then if I say, Max, you can't come to the office because people are talking about you, that's a huge risk on. I mean, they could both hose me in the situation. You know what I mean? So these kind of HR situations are all about basically not getting sued. And so that's why I think they need to be handled very carefully and very empathetically on both sides. And I'm not going to go in and tell anybody what's wrong. But depending on the size of the organization, I mean, if this is General Electric, I'm not going to have a conversation. You know, so the people who are directly involved are the ones who are you have a dot matrix back there? Or what is that noise? Anyway, but the people who are not coming, these need to be significant conversations. And I assume they won't just not show up and not talk to anybody about it.
Yeah.
So, like, what exactly is the concern? Just kind of talk them through it. Typically, when you talk people through like irrational thoughts, when they're not emotional, the answers kind of come out. And then, what's Max's problem? Why is he so weird? I don't know. But maybe that's not his job. His job has nothing to do with pleasing people. So, without a whole lot more information, I can't really give you specifics on like the outline of it, what each conversation would be like, because I don't really know. It sounds like this is kind of an emotionally charged situation, and emotional decisions that might not be based on, that are certainly not based on reality. They're just based on a fear of temporary circumstances. Because look, somebody got shot up last week. That has nothing to do with Max at all. And your opinions of Max have changed based on something that has nothing to do with him, which is probably unfair. I understand your concerns about being scared to come to offices because maybe you never really thought that something like that could happen at an accounting firm. But we're really at no more risk than we were before. Probably less risk now because it's happened once. It's happened recently, and it's like the old adage, like when the restaurant gets busted for not being clean enough, that's kind of the restaurant you want to go to a couple once they reopen, because so this just needs to be very, very individual. This is a lot of sensitive people, and if they really don't want to come to work because of because of a rumor like this, then it's probably fine that you don't work here anymore.
Okay. Well, okay. A little follow-up question to that. We basically just summarized that. There's a little like details that we left out just to keep it short. But if you had to fire one of them, who would you fire?
If I had to fire,
short answer. Whatever you think, it all goes.
Well, when you start damaging office morale, and when you start causing problems like that, and you start behaving like the cancer in the office, whoever that was, and it sounds like that might be, if I have a person in management that is flaming the fire for this stuff, that's typically who I would be the most frustrated with. If you don't want to show up, I'm going to fire you. I mean, if you don't want to show up because of this and you can't do your job, I mean, I guess I could consider firing them, but like, you don't show up, you don't show up. But if you're providing the agitation and you're the cancer, I don't know if I would fire you because that would probably be a complete disaster legally for me, but that's who I would probably reprimand first.
That's interesting. That was actually the right answer.
Well, I guess it depends. Unless Max is going to shoot me if I do something.
Our class, we were only able to pick between Max and the other girl, Kate. And like 25% of us said Max, and the other 75 said Kate. But
what are you firing Max for?
People fired Max to end that mass hysteria.
Yeah.
And then people fired Kate to stop the person that's starting the gossip.
Which one was Kate?
Kay she's not the manager. She's the one that started all the gossip.
So they set you, they give you a trick question.
Yeah, we weren't able to fire the manager, but you said you would, which was actually the right answer.
Well, I don't know why you would fire Max. It doesn't seem like Max is just kind of a weird guy. Like you knew that going in, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah,
right?
I chose the wrong answer. I chose Max. I got it wrong.
So tell me why though, because like, yeah, that'd be like, you know, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
that's
so there was more details in the article. It was like a 7-page article, and we only gave you a paragraph. But it showed that like Max wasn't brushing his teeth or like combing his hair and ate in the office. So, I mean, if you could say to get out of legal problems, you could say something like that. And then if I fired Kate, I don't know, there would be no reason to fire her except that she spread one rumor.
Yeah, it said that there's always like the overdramatic office gossip, and then Max, which is kind of like a nasty, weird guy who didn't get along with anyone. And then it said that like one of the biggest things that like Kate found or somebody mentioned was like he was real big on going to the gun range, and so he had like certificates from the gun range like in his office cubicle. So somebody was like, "Oh my God, he's gonna come shoot the place."
yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I expect more out of the managers, and you know, the low level people are just going to behave certain ways, and so I just expect more of the managers, and I don't know. One of the things that I do see a lot of guys, and when people hire and when people build businesses, they hire people they like, which is good in a lot of ways, but it's also like if there are all these different types of personalities. I don't know if you guys have done any of these personality tests or trainings. Or I think Dylan, you probably did the culture index. I imagine. Did you not?
Yeah.
Okay, so like these really socially intelligent people, they can get almost any job they want because they're such good interviews, and they pick up on like what you're saying, and they know what answers you want to hear. And so you get these firms, and this happens a lot in tech too, which is kind of weird. You get these firms with all these people who like each other, which is great, but they might not be qualified. And so, like, you know, you can get, I know a lot of people who have really high level jobs because they're great interviews and they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Kind of like a baseball tryout. You could have a really good hitting day, but everyone knows you're not the best. And then some guy, obviously way more qualified, and everyone knows he's good, has a terrible tryout, and the guy with the good tryout gets the spot. Something like that.
That's right. And maybe he's a good maybe he's a good BP guy or something. And so that happens a lot. And like if the goal is to have like a bunch of friends that like each other, yeah, you should probably get rid of Max, or you shouldn't have hired him in the first place. But if he's producing, it doesn't, you know, it's hard because you don't like hiring people you don't like. It's not fun to like, I gotta hang out with this guy, but he's so good at his job. Nobody really likes that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting us interview you and spending 30 minutes with us.
What was your answer to the question?
My answer was actually to originally, like in my class, I said to fire Kate just because with all the things that Max had done, his was like he was a company, like more details. He was with the company for like 20 years. He produced very well. He just had kind of bad hygiene and people thought weird things of him. While Kate was always overly dramatic and kind of office gossip causing problems. And so I went to keep the more tenured guy who actually produces because at the end of the day, he's the one making you money and not causing problems. So.
Yeah. Well, you
I agree with Harris firing Kate because I just don't think there's like that much like room for like there's like on what ground are you gonna fire Max? I don't think that'd be justified from what was presented.
I mean, unless
Yeah, one of the biggest portions of the paper or the article was like the manager who you ended up firing. One of her biggest like kind of thoughts in the head was like somebody mentioned to her like if you fire Max, like he's definitely going to sue you for like wrongfully termination. So
yeah. Well, and she's just trying to keep her constituencies her constituents happy, right? Like she's kind of in the middle. But boy, yeah. I don't know. Yeah, because unless Max had like, so now you got me going a little bit. Unless Max had made a significant change, like if nothing else changed with Max other than some unrelated incident, like that's tough. It happens to me all that's gonna happen to you boys all the time with your girlfriends and stuff. And they have a dream about something, they're mad at you. Like, I don't know what they are. You know, I'm the same guy.
Yeah.
Bro, you can record that and send that to your professor. Okay, cool. Hope that helped.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Really appreciate it.
Are you guys, what are you, sophomores? I can't remember.
Here, I'm going to stop this recording.